The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Back with you. It's Thursday. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you. Numbers to get in: 489-1240. 489-1240. 800-825-5865. Always check us out on the stream. Hail Varsity YouTube. Can watch on Twitter. Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio, and hear us along the Hail Varsity Radio Network. We'll get to some emails. We've got a meeting of the two families that's ongoing. That's the SEC, that's the Big Ten, as they're making plans. I don't know if they're putting any hits out on people, but we'll talk a little bit about that. Here is what the next few seasons could look like. You've got an amazing weekend of matchups. You want that to keep happening if you're a college football fan, because you've had about 3 or 4 wow games / matchups every week through your first 6 weeks of college football. Bye week continues. We'll talk with Brandon Vogel from Counter Reed as he's kind of gone through the good, the bad, the ugly in Nebraska football through the first 6. So Vogues checks in. Coach Barnett will spend some time with us in hour 2. We'll talk with Coach Gary Barnett and his thoughts on Colorado K-State this weekend and that freshman quarterback Nebraska has, what he has seen so far through the first few ball games as we try and project what Nebraska will be in the second half. Damon Benning going to be with us in hour 2. And then Danny Burke, Burke's Best Bets. We'll look at some NFL and college football this weekend. Big thanks to Elijah. Big thanks to Justice. Big thanks to all of you for rocking and rolling. Yesterday had about 5-6 minutes from Kaufman. And listen, I got to just throw out there, I have been super fortunate and lucky in my life to be part of some just wonderful sports experiences. No Super Bowl. I will get down to Augusta this spring for a practice round with Iowa Rust. We're not playing. We get to go watch. But got to go to a Major League Baseball playoff game. And I got to see the Royals and Yankees last night. That was as good as advertised, an amazing experience. Through work, there's been so many ball games, and then just being a kid growing up here in Nebraska, there's a lot of ball games that I have had a chance to either be in the seats for, be in the press box for. So those were always near and dear, and you never take those for granted. But Elijah, how does I wish you could bottle it. I wish you could bottle it. I wish you could pop it like a Tic Tac, or take a shot like it's tequila after a birdie. And that is what was on display last night down in Kansas City. Just the raucous passion, energy, juice, all one voice with a few Yankee fans I rode down was sprinkled into the stands of trying to will a team to victory in a 2-2 ball game. And, you know, Kansas City is just a hop, skip, and a jump for a lot of us growing up, going to Royals or Chiefs games. And everyone had their blue towel. They were waving it. They were full throat. They were, rude enough to not Yankee fans, but, it was a home field advantage. And it was just great. And the whole experience is up there. I've been to a playoff NFL game. I got to see Tom Brady's first loss about 20 years ago at Mile High. Jeff the pharmacist took me along for that ride. Champ Bailey's return,
which it's been making the rounds on social media this week because of what Pat Surtain did on Sunday with his 100-yard return. You kind of seen those lined up side by side. So it's
Champ fumbled out of the end zone, but we won't go there. He did.
That's not what they called on the field.
No, I know. That's absolutely not what they called on the field. But Denver was lit. That was a crazy place with, Tom Brady and Super Bowl champs coming to town, and Jake Plummer, sorry Husker fan, of all people, knocked off Tom Brady for his first career playoff loss. Bud Crawford coming to PBA back in 2018.
I was there.
That was juice. That was awesome. And then those magic moments, right, with Nebraska taking on a Miami or a Colorado this year. And then you go down to PBA. You look at Nebraska this year with taking down Purdue, and in Wisconsin with the court storming and just the big game buildup. You can't beat it. I wish you could bottle it. I wish you could put it in pill form. But, man, that's why you love sports. That's why you got to go do these things. And it was awesome to be with Junior and Papa Al and my brother-in-law and my wife. I sat with my wife for the ball game, and it's like that scene out of Wedding Crashers, right, where – look at the baby. She's judging. My wife is very quiet as she's in her New York year, Elijah, and she's just staring out at a multitude of Royals fans, and I can see her wheels turning, and I can almost hear her under her breath saying something unflattering about other people. So she is a people watcher. And those Yankee fans, that family I rode down with yesterday, they got out 3-2 win with Stanton, showing a pulse, and then some in the postseason. So it was awesome. It was so cool. Thanks for letting me sneak away to do that.
Yeah, I'm glad you had a good time down there. It was a good baseball game last night. Not sure Bob Costas had a good time watching it, but everyone else did.
Well, and Bob's been catching hell. I mean, everybody, we were along the first baseline, and we were snuck in to the right of the foul pole along first base. So we were in the outfield, like right where some home runs could land if you go oppo, or you had a dirty lefty take one deep. And it was just beautiful. It was, I think Papa Al and Carson were about 3 or 4 seats or rows from that outfield wall, and we were about 5 or 6 rows back total. So premium seats. I'm glad he pulled the trigger on those, and it was just awesome. It was cool, and it was something that I won't forget. Now I've got a NFL, I got a Major League Baseball. I've been to national championship bowl games before, so it's a good list that I'm acquiring. I need to get to an NHL game, and I need to hit NBA, I think.
I need to hit a big NHL
I've been to an
game.
NBA game, actually. It was regular season.
I've been to plenty of regular season NHL games. Love my Avs. Those are always really good environments. Like, to me, the one that stands out, it's recency bias, was that Nuggets comeback against the Lakers I was there for this past postseason. I think it was game 2. Where Jamal Murray hits the game winner. I was in the lower bowl. That was one where, like, at halftime the energy is gone, but then you feel that in the second half. That feeling just of, oh, here they come. Everyone in the building starts believing. As you said, the energy ramps up. You start trying to ramp you're trying to will your team forward to victory. That was a good one. That was a really, really good one. You think pregame, I know the game didn't end up how people would like it to, but you think back to that 2019 Ohio State-Nebraska game, where College game days in town, you kind of have the circus all morning with that, followed up with all the tailgating pregame activities, and then in the stadium an hour before kickoff, you could just feel electricity in the air. I know the game didn't turn out how Nebraska wanted, but like the moment that really stands out in that game is that one drive where Nebraska starts running triple option and starts gashing that Ohio State defense, and Ohio State's defense takes a timeout, and oh boy, Memorial Stadium was rocking there. And then we all know what Justin Fields did to the Nebraska defense the rest of that game, so we don't have to talk about it any further, but that one really, really stands out in terms of, as you can talk, it's like you hear people say the buzz is palpable, and it's those moments.
You feel back to Michigan 2021, that buzz, that opportunity, that excitement.
It's a combination. It's a combination of excitement and tension.
Sure. Nervous energy, things. Wishing, wanting, the hope.
Dear God,
the hope factor.
Please don't get blown out tonight.
Yeah,
like that
go
feeling.
Play ball.
Go play ball. Go live up to what
give
we
her hell,
do.
and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But look like you belong.
That's why, like, the first game of a Nebraska season, like we think back to UTEP, and was there nervous energy for the UTEP game? Not really. It's that combination of the excitement and the nervousness that really makes it. That's what takes there from being just excitement in the air to being able to feel that buzz. Is whenever it's a combination of excitement and tension, and it's that's one of those things that only sports can do. Think what else other things in life? I mean, I know some people kind of do that with politics, but it's not the same. Like, what else in sports is there that can give you that feeling among a group of 80,000 people? Dude,
if your team pulls off a wow surprise win, kind of that whole real nice surprise, think of your cousin Eddie line. You know, it's a real nice surprise, Clark. That's cool. That's great. But if you match and exceed in a big moment, that's what is the buzz around Ohio State this week. The biggest game of the college football season lives in Eugene on Saturday. Ohio State, everything but, verbally crowned. They just haven't crowned themselves on the field as the best in college football. Oregon, right up there. They're both playoff teams. But right now, you've got Ohio State, their fan base kind of doubting themselves, quite honestly. Like, do we belong from a talent standpoint, but it's been a long time since you've won a big game. You know, Nebraska's going through that, and they'll have a chance in a week against Indiana to snap that dreaded ranked losing streak, right? You'll see Nebraska with a chance to go in and as an underdog pull an upset, but you want to see your team play at a high level. And if you get beat by a team that makes a play or two more than you, so be it, but don't be sloppy, don't beat yourself. And right now, Ohio State fan is feeling that heat. You've been worked by Michigan, and you're 3-5 in your last 8. You've done everything. You've been in the playoff. But by now, you need to go win a big game and probably go dial up a national championship. It's been a decade for Ohio State. It's been since Vince Young for Texas. It's been since Sweet Lou in '88 for Notre Dame. Really, it's just been Bama and Georgia. And the only team on the field, aside from Bama, has been Ohio State against Georgia that looks comparable. Those are your two best recruiting squads. Those are your two best teams. Those are your two best NFL football factories, right? You got to show up on the field. And that's, to kind of put a bow on the road trip to Kansas City. Saw a good ball game. You saw that hype, that hope, that energy. The flyover right as the national anthem was ending with 2 F-16s. Chills, man. Mm-hmm. The most chills I've had in a long, long time. Let's get to our...
Before we do that, I have heard reports in that we're having some technical difficulties on the air today and on our stream. I think there's some internet issues that we're dealing with here at the home studio.
I have got a text out to see if that can get fixed. If you're hanging with us along the Hail Varsity Radio Network in central Nebraska, northeast Nebraska, Omaha, we're trying to put that fire out. It was unbeknownst to us. Appreciate you, Duda, for giving me a heads up.
Yeah, so what it sounds like we're dealing with is we're cutting in and out. One thing I'll say is we're not dealing with that issue on our home station, 1240 KFOR, that is streaming live online, KFORnow.com. You can find the live stream that way if these issues are bothering you. Also, it sounds like maybe we're clearing things up slightly in the stream, maybe not. I don't know. We're getting the reports as we can.
Did you feed the hamster in the dreaded back room that is on that hamster wheel that keeps the energy going?
See, I gave him a 10-minute break earlier as reward for all his hard work, and that may have been the mistake. I think he knows laziness now.
He's put his feet up, right? He's resting on that. It's kind of like Ohio State. You've played nobody your first 5, and you're like, I'm a national champion. And then when put my feet up, and
the lights are bright. Hail Varsity Radio is live, and that hamster is kicking its feet up.
His name is Sammy. Okay, Justin checks in on the stream. Good to have you in, Justin. Mr. Snitley is here. Jeff Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. Justin Old Boot says, I'm here. Love it. Grateful Red is in. Brian checks in. Brian says Schmidt needs to pitch for the Royals tonight. You had a Schmidt pitching last night for the Yankees. Not that C. Schmidt. Clark Schmidt went 5. Arlo is here. NASCAR Eric checks in. Good to have you, NASCAR Eric. Mr. Erickson, aggressively average. Checking in from the heart of Hades, also known as Iowa, says aggressively average. Black Hills Brennan. Good to have you, Black Hills Brennan. Says, I'm packing wheel bearings today. I'd rather try on dresses. The other Dave is here. Uncle Larry is in. Anonymous checks in and asks, does the Big Ten really want Indiana to have a chance at going 11-1? Good question. Tuck, good to have you, Tuck. KG is here as well. KG checks back in. Ronnie is here. Great Red Shark says, howdy all. Schmitty's returned from seclusion. I guess. I just snuck away. Brent says, I'm why the Royals lost. I wore my baby blue, more so to needle the Yankee fans I rode down with. Blame me. Justin says, hashtag blame Schmidt. You can hashtag that for a lot of things. But baseball, no. You can't. Let's be honest. KC needs one more bat in their lineup. And they need to not walk 9 people. Say this, the 2-strike hitting from the bottom of their lineup to get runs across last night was awesome. That place was on fire when it got tied in the 5th. We'll spend some time with Brandon Vogel, counter read, get into some more Husker football with Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
It's Hail Varsity as Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. If you have issues on YouTube or the Twitter account, Hail Varsity Twitter and YouTube, again, wherever you hear us, if it's not stabilizing from a technical standpoint, please forgive us. We are trying. It was news to us, but KFORnow.com can stream that way. Brandon Vogel with us from counterread, counterread.com. Vogues, I was just smiling about the playoff base. Okay,
yeah,
Vogues.
You might need to hold that thought. I didn't want to jump in and cut you off, but
Vogues dove out of the shot. Now he's back in front of his computer, and he's ready to rock and roll. Vogues, I was just talking to dead air. I was kind of had my head turned. I didn't know you wandered away, but it's good to see you, man, in your football office. How we doing?
How are you guys doing on this bye week?
We're good. You apparently have a Royals fan down the hall upset.
Yeah, something like that. That was the source of the diving out of the shot.
Yeah, you bless you. Vogue's gonna hunker down, grab the desk, and write out this first segment together. Maybe only segment for today, based on down the hall unhappiness. But
well, back in the day, you just take a little whiskey, throw it in the baby bottle,
Sure.
I know it's a different
parent
time,
of the year.
I said back in the day. I'm not a parent.
Folks, you've seen a lot of sporting events, man, and last night was incredible. It was awesome with playoff baseball, that energy, that juice, and you've been around it from Nebraska football. You've been around it for Nebraska volleyball, and it just hits different, doesn't it? When it's a big game and it's a big opponent, and lo and behold, your team actually goes out and gets the win or competes to their very best, and that's what Nebraska seems to be chasing right now as they keep climbing and keep building. And I know you focused on some good, some bad, some ugly for this first half of the season, but so far so good for year two. I know the record's almost where you want it to be if you're a Nebraska fan, and just to kind of put my arms around all of this, the postseason thing is worth the experience. I mean, it is so cool to be in those moments. I'm going to take a velvet hammer and beat the hell out of our internet service.
Yeah.
This is absolutely disgusting. Let's try him on the phone.
Yep.
All right, let's just do that. We're going to audible here or go to the bullpen to keep with the baseball theme and do it that way. Vogues, we got you. We're going to go to the phone. We're going to call you on the phone, Vogues, and do it that way, as we're just going to deal with things live channel your inner Bill Riley and scream with me at the radio. 489-1240, 489-1240 to get in. Can send an email, Chris at hailvarsity.com, as we're going to connect with Vogues. I want to remind you about your friends at Big Brothers and Big Sisters. They empower young people through one-on-one mentoring, and those relationships help unlock full potential for young kids. MentorOmaha.org with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Challenge to you, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, trying to recruit 60 men in 60 days by October 30th. And be a part of that. They're part of the match support specialists. Those support specialists match the big with the little, the big brother with the youth. And what you do is you have a chance twice a month to do enjoyable activities. That's grab some ice cream, shoot some hoops, get to a ball game. We've talked about going to those wild ball games here for the first 40 minutes, play some video games, but be a part of enhancing someone's life as a mentor. With Big Brothers and Big Sisters, empower young people through one-on-one mentoring. MentorOmaha.org, as Big Brothers and Big Sisters want to bring you on board, 60 men in 60 days by October 30th. Are we not having any luck?
I think our internet may have gone down completely. I just got a pre-recorded message about talk to the service provider on the phone lines.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, this is good. You want to try the...
Yeah, I've already tried that, but I'll try it again.
All right, we're going to try Brandon Vogel. But what I was telling you about with Vogues is his column today with Counter Reed. And he dove in, as it is the first half, right? The midseason review. And as you look at Nebraska, what you have noticed as a Nebraska fan is all sorts of talent, all sorts of new faces from a talent standpoint, not only at quarterback, but Nebraska's conscious effort to go get talent, upgrade, and experience in the portal with the wide receivers, in the portal with Dowdell. You've got Barney, the wow freshman that's super high ceiling along with Raiola. We say hi to Brandon Vogel now on the phone lines. Vogues, thanks for this audible. And I'm going through your midseason column. And you start off by talking, Bud, about just the new faces. And these new faces, be it Portal, be it the Bankses and Nahors of the world, or the Dylan Raiolas, how surprised are you that this group of newbies on offense have delivered like they have?
Yeah, I'm really surprised. So, I mean, I think we knew that.
Vogues, we got you now. Try it again.
You're a factor here.
Vogues, can you move out of your office?
It's not a him issue.
It's
an us issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vogues, can you blink twice? Hello, Brandon. Do we have you? This is awful.
Yep.
Just set fire to the whole darn thing.
I believe our internet done gone down again.
Oh, this is sweet.
Yeah, awesome. This is fantastic.
Thank you for sticking with us, affiliates.
See, the people listening in podcast form, you're like, it sounds so perfect. There's no issue. Well, aside from the phone line issues we've just experienced. Oh, yeah, our internet's gone completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just old school radio it, which is fine. So the long and short is we'll hopefully have video and YouTube back with you and for you tomorrow.
The stream's still running, but we're not in it.
No.
There's just a blank stream currently going, which may just get ended. Because I don't know what to do.
Yeah. So we need some help.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to get that help. Let's play ball here with Vogues' column. All right. The new faces. And we'll try and reconnect with Vogues. We'll for sure have some Saturday morning time with him with the weekend edition. But Elijah, that was one of the wild cards, right? We kind of brought it to Georgia, and we talked a little bit about Ohio State and what stage they're on. And they have a lot of new faces, it feels like, at wide receiver that come in and just kill it. And then after 3 years, they go off to the first round, either at quarterback or wide receiver. What's really nice about Nebraska, though, is the offense is better. It's still not consistent, but the offense is better. And that offense is on the shoulders of a true freshman. On the shoulders of a true freshman. You've brought in 2 seniors at wide receiver that have helped stabilize things, which is nice. But one of your biggest playmakers has been Barney. He's kind of really set the tone. And I expected Dylan to come in and play well, but I expected him to lean on his big older brothers. And he's done that from time to time at wide receiver, but not always, right? Not always, because Barney's really been kind of a tone setter for me with this offense.
Should I shut the stream down here? Is that...
Sure, do it.
Yeah.
Send out a text and a tweet a little bit later.
Yeah. We may be back. Does it matter?
I don't know, dude. Let's just...
Yeah, we're going to... So for the folks that are watching on stream, we're going to scuttle that for the rest of the day. If we get internet back, we'll work on what we can do. I think they can hear me for now.
Yeah, let's just do a show and quit,
old school.
Quit talking technical.
And we'll figure that out at a later time.
So we're talking about Nebraska and, keeping with technical issues, right? The technical issues have dwindled a little bit. The penalties, at least last game, dwindled down a little bit. That was good for Nebraska. The ability to put some drives together has been key. Now, what you need in this second half, we need someone to put a Superman cape on and fix our internet. Nebraska needs a big hit or 2 in their run game, okay? Mm-hmm. They need a big play. We need a big play. They need a big play. And really that's some of the steps you're seeing forward. You've seen big plays in the passing game. Where Nebraska needs to go in the run game is to inch up that total to be around 200 or so. We'll see if they get there in the second half. I think there's some opponents that they can maybe run the football against a little bit better. That being said, I don't know that Nebraska's an offense right now that can just hand off and expect great things because they're balanced. Yes, they still have a commitment to the run game, but they're not as polished as they need. They're not as good as they need to be at running the football.
And one of the things I've talked about with that rushing attack, I talked about it post-game, I think I talked about it Monday, was that creativity running the football. It's a bit of a buzzword, I understand that. But what this offense needs, in my opinion, based on what I've seen so far this year, is it needs to be able to stress the defense with a rushing attack aside from just 5 big dudes up front wearing on you. Because Michigan can stress a defense like that, whereas the game wears on, the defensive line gets tired. You start to stress a defense that way. I still think Nebraska, whether it's bringing in Harburg and having the threat of the quarterback run, whether it's Barney going around the edge and now you got to be playing sideline to sideline in addition to being downhill. The Husker offense, especially in second halves, whenever they kind of go a little bit more conservative, needs to find a way to stress a defense in other ways than just hand it to the running back, let those big dudes up front wear in a defense. They need to keep the defense thinking and kind of keep the defense second-guessing, in my opinion, with that rushing attack. And that's what I mean whenever I say I think they need a little bit more creativity there.
We'll spend a little bit more time with Nebraska, the Big Ten and SEC meeting. That's on the way as well.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
All right, we are efforting all of our internet and streaming issues. Phone calls are out, so just hang with us. On the radio, where you can hear us, KFORnow.com to stream. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We'll try and connect with Coach Barnett and Damon Benning next hour. Danny Burke with us. We appreciate Brandon Vogel from Counter Reed, his time, and the 30 seconds we got with him. But it was glorious. It was glorious to hear Vogues' voice and see Vogues on screen as we typically stream YouTube, Hail Varsity YouTube, like and subscribe, just not today. Apparently X is having some issues, but that might be part of our Twitter issues as well. What kind of issue do you foresee with the Big Ten and the SEC? So you've got two big dogs, you've got lots of power, and you have the reality of Petiti going to Sankey early in his tenure when he got named and said, let's work together. Right, let's work together. If you're a Boardwalk Empire fan, great show about Prohibition, that had some key historical figures over the years in the 1919s and 1920s with people who really didn't like one another, maybe had them shot out a few times. They'd still sit down in a room together to try and make some money. That is the painting I have of the Big Ten and the SEC, because each other thinks they're the one that is going to call the shots, that needs to call the shots. But in reality, each party needs the other, because you're going to get what if you're the SEC and you go on it alone and you try and just rule college football by yourself. What do you get? Well, you get a ACC that's weak. You get a Big 12 that's weak. You don't have a Pac-12 anymore. And you're just going to beat up on people. It's the Harlem Globetrotters winning every ball game all the time. And then it just gets kind of boring for the rest of college football, not your region, mind you, if your same two or three teams keep winning and working the SEC. This is fascinating to see where it will go between the SEC and the Big Ten with scheduling. Do you keep some things on the books for future years with some helmet games? Do you keep things spicy? You mean for years in basketball, it's the Big Ten ACC Challenge or the Big Ten Big 12 Challenge. I think if you're the SEC, you want to get in bed with the Big Ten when it comes to basketball and start doing some cross matchups. Get your Kentuckys to play Michigan State. They do quite a bit because both those coaches, traditionally before Cal moved on, they want to see where you're at about week 2 or I should say game 2 or game 3. How much better do I need to get by March? In the same token with football, Elijah, we have seen 2 of the top 3 watched games this year be between the SEC and the Big Ten. Texas, Michigan, 9.1 million. USC, LSU, 8.6 million. And what you didn't have is that incredible number, 14, 15 million with Georgia, Alabama. And quite honestly, until the SEC title game or the college football playoff, Georgia and Bama played a whopping twice, ever, because they weren't going to schedule one another during the regular season. The SEC protected each of them. Moving forward, I propose you keep things on the books, and you've got a question to ask yourself right now with the SEC, and that's what's being brought up this week, along with the Big Ten. Do you play 11 Power 5 games, or do you drop your rivalry game? And that goes to Iowa, Iowa State. That goes to Washington, Washington State, Oregon, Oregon State, South Carolina, Clemson, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Kentucky, Louisville, Florida, Florida State, Florida, Miami. I don't want these in-state rivalries dropped. That's so good for the state you're in. But I also want what Ohio State's done, man. They're playing Texas the next 2 seasons. They're playing Bama the following seasons before we hit the turn of 2030. And they also have Georgia on the schedule. Ohio State's not blinking, on top of the fact they're going to be taking on Michigan. They're going to be playing the Oregons. They'll be playing Nebraska. They'll be playing Penn State. They're going to challenge themselves. Michigan has a trip to Austin still on the books. They have Oklahoma scheduled. So you see some of your big brands already a part of this. Nebraska included in this because, listen, they've got Tennessee on the books 26 and 27 and Oklahoma in 29 and 30. So those are three helmets that aren't blinking. They're going to keep things going. What does the rest of the leagues do? And what you do is you find a common ground with eight league games.
I've been beating the drum for a while.
I love 9, but dial it back to 8 and sprinkle in a dance partner from the SEC.
I've been saying this for a while, and I'm going to beat the drum again. No inside information here. I think college football schedule expansion is coming. I think we're going to move from 12 to 14 games.
Okay.
That's what I think.
So they're going to go more. They're really, truly going to go all NFL.
Think about how big conferences are, especially the SEC and the Big Ten. Does it make sense in the Big Ten for you playing half of the teams?
You want a good game every weekend. You want options, and that's what this gives you.
And that's why I think you're going to see expansion. Because what I think you're going to see is schools get 3 non-conference games to schedule as they so choose. If you want to go group of 5 teams, if you want to go FCS, whatever. And then you have 1 protected for the Big Ten. It'll probably be an SEC crossover. And then you go 10 conference games. I think 10's a nice round number that makes a lot of sense. I think 14's a round number that makes a lot of sense. Then you get the 4 non-conference games still. Hey, if the SEC, you still want your half bye against some directional school in October or November, you can still do that. I think we're just going to start moving towards schedule expansion. It's what makes the most sense to me with how big conferences are. Like, you got to be playing at least half. I think conferences are probably going to continue to expand as time goes on. I think we're moving towards a 14-game college football schedule. I'm not sure if that's next year. I'm not sure if that's in 10 years. But I think we're moving that direction. And it gives you more flexibility to still get some non-conference warm-up games, get a game against a team from the SEC, a big marquee matchup that's going to draw in viewers. Maybe you do it like basketball where it's all in one weekend, the Big Ten SEC Challenge. And then as conferences continue to expand, I mean, if you're playing 8 of the 18 teams in the Big Ten, it's 17 others, though, you're not even playing half. And I don't think that's a sustainable model moving forward for college football if that's the way you want to do it. So I think we're moving towards college football schedule expansion.
Well, you have must-sees already happening. You are going to see Penn State, USC. That was New Year's Day for you. That was a Rose Bowl matchup. Now that's Week 6, which is great. You get Oregon, Ohio State. That's awesome. And I love the fact that these have brands and teams are staying aggressive. And that's going to keep drawing people in and keeps the money machine going.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you this first hour. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager, and can find us and follow us streaming. So are you getting bars back? No?
Well, some web pages are actually loading for me now, though my speed test, which I am running, is still showing 0. So,
well, we may or may not have Danny Burke. We may be able to coordinate and commandeer Coach Barnett. That's the plan here in about 10 minutes, Coach Barnett. And then we'll try and run down Damon Benning. I want you to run down your friends at Neiman and Sons. Do you have a commercial building? Do you have a home? Is it time for that new roof? How about some siding? How about gutters? Well, I know this. Strong commitment to customer satisfaction is reality with Neiman & Sons. Family owned and established since 1981. And they do offer that full range of residential and commercial exterior services. And even custom exterior lighting. If you want to get rolling for Halloween or Christmas or the holiday season. And Neiman & Sons, they've been dedicated to being involved in the community. Youth football, a big passion of theirs. They've been doing that for a long time. And Neiman & Sons, we're talking 4 decades plus of excellence, trusted professionals, fully licensed, accredited, Neiman & Sons have built a solid reputation through quality service and customer trust. Trevor, Travis, and the crew, the whole family, is incredible at what they do when it comes to their specialization. That's roofing, siding, gutters, and, of course, the custom exterior lighting. Give Neiman & Sons a ring today at 402-423-4853. Can log on and connect with them as well. NeimanandSons.com.
Schmitty, we do have a thought in here on Twitter from the folks over with Go Big Redcast.
Okay.
They doubt the 14-game regular season because of the looming roster limits, concerns about wear and tear on players. They suggest, if anything, you drop the warm-up games, the teams against your non-Power 4 schools, your directional foes. They say play.
You just dive right in, no warm-up, no preseason.
They're saying 10 to 11 conference foes, 1 to 2 Power 5 non-cons. That way you can kick up the TV product, make more money, and not incur more wear and tear on the players. Which
well, if folks are getting paid, all right, the wear and tear goes out the window. I know it's student athlete. I know it is technically non-professional, but you're making NIL, so you're expected to perform. And if you're going to take the money, you're going to play a longer and harder schedule.
And that's why I think if you're going to, I mean, from a TV partner point of view, it makes a lot of sense to add 2 games. That's an extra 16% of the season. Quick math in my head, I think that's right. 2 out of 12. I think that's 16%. You can increase your revenue.
Pushed back by your chancellors and president. The academic folks aren't going to be happy about that.
Are they going to be mad about the check that's coming to the athletic department? Well, that's what I'm saying.
We go back to square one, academics versus athletics, the nerds versus the jocks.
This is true, but I'm just looking at it from a dollars and cents point of view. You can increase revenue for an athletic department by probably 20% if it's a marquee game against a conference foe plus another marquee game against like an SEC team.
And how much of that do you kick back to the old university?
Well, Nebraska's unique in that Nebraska.
They don't have to. Everybody else does.
Well, if you're a nerd sitting in the university president's office and you think, well, I have to pay less money to the athletic department every single year.
Thurston, here's a check. Don't bother me again. I'll see you at the club. All right, we'll run down Coach Barnett, Damon Benning, Hour 2, as we fight this Thursday at Hail Varsity.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back into it, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We welcome in the Hall of Fame coach, Gary Barnett. Coach, it is a awesome time of year, big weekend of college football. I know you tune into some baseball from time to time, and you had the old golf tour going on. How was that?
Well, as usual, Pine Valley remains undefeated.
I like it.
Yeah. I had 2 decent days and 1 bad day, but you know what? Playing that golf course is mystical, and it's I do it. The older I get, the harder it is, but I'm telling you, it's the hardest golf course you're ever going to see. But you had a great time.
That is so good. And what was elusive, if I may ask, this past weekend with the golf game? Was it the putting, the driving, the approach? I think you're probably pretty sound at all. I just took on a pretty big beast.
Well, I drove the ball okay, but I did take on a beast. The second shot at Pine Valley is critical. And if you're putting well, then you have no chance. And I 2 of the 3 days I putted poorly, and that hurt me. But the second shots at Pine Valley, they have to be stacked and they're all elevated. And it's just really hard. The drive isn't so hard, but doggone second shots are what gets you there.
It's Gary Barnett with us here, recapping his bye week. And Barney, do you have any advice for us as we go into the bye week weekend? It's going to be a good weekend of college football. going to have a really full day of games, 11, 2:30, 6:30. There's great games all day long. Any advice for us as we approach the bye week? Because I'm at the point now where I'm like, man, it would be better if there's just a Husker football game on Saturday. I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, well, Chris is going to smoke ribs. You can go right over to his house and just sit down and watch the whole day. There's good games all day. We finish off at 8:15 at night, 9:15 your time, with the CU and Kansas State game. So there's a bunch of good games, and you got Oregon and Ohio State out there in a late game. So there's a lot of football to watch, and you'll get fired up. Don't worry about it.
You mentioned the smoker. I was outside Sunday, kind of peeking out after our podcast, and Mama was out back, kind of touching up the patio. Coach, she moved my smoker to the garage. Well, it's better than my wife moving it to the front of the driveway where the trash is. So, did that happen to you? Yeah. So came home and it was gone. So. I came home and it was gone. That's no good. He said, "We are not the Clampett." And so, it just went right outside and never saw it again. Oh, no. You know the best part, though? We can go shopping for a new one. I don't think that's happening. Oh, wow. All right. Well, I want to get your thoughts on quarterback play. And, Coach, really tight ball game for Nebraska. Rutgers last Saturday. Looked good early. You hung on late if you're Nebraska 14-7, but I like what Matt Rule's doing, and you're learning how to win in some tight moments. Tied tough first half against Purdue, and then it's a one-score game with about 8 minutes left, Coach, for Nebraska-Rutgers, and the offense was MIA, and that was a lot to do with Rutgers, but the defense was back to normal form. You've seen a tough fourth quarter by Raiola against Illinois, and you saw really a tough, really second quarter on from Dylan as a freshman. Talk to me a little bit about helping a young quarterback respond the right way, and how did you go about your quarterback meetings after a really talented guy had a tough day? Well, you're just growing a quarterback is what you're doing. And it's, you understand a year ago he's in high school, and he's not facing every weekend players that are bigger, faster, and stronger than he is, and tight windows and all those things. So, mentally it gets to you. He probably needs this bye week more than Elijah does, but it's critical. He needs a little break. I mean, it just keeps coming at you like waves in the ocean, and you're not used to it. And that's part of the grind you have to get used to as a freshman playing starting varsity like he is.
Coach, one of the things that the radio broadcast noted during that Rutgers game was on the sideline, Raiola didn't really look like himself. Like, he wasn't the usual high-energy, rah-rah guy that you tend to see on the sideline. He was a little more subdued. Confidence wasn't quite there, kind of sitting by himself on the sideline. As a head coach, is that something you address, or is it an understanding that guys having an off day, let's go leave him alone on the bench? How do you handle that coming off of a bad performance?
Well, my guess is by now Matt Rule knows Dylan well enough to know how to handle him, or at least how to deal with him. You actually handle luggage, you don't handle people. But again, it's like becoming part of it's growing up as a quarterback, and so it's just part of the process. Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, did you get a chance to get a glimpse up close and personal against Indiana Northwestern, or did you see any part of it if you didn't attend? I didn't. I had grandson events and granddaughter events, and so I did walk down by the stadium the day afterwards and just check it out to see how they did it. Mm-hmm. Had breakfast with Fish and So I didn't do much there. That was more of a go in, see the grandkids, be around them for 3 days.
Gotcha. What do you make of last weekend? Bama, Vandy. Did you ever think you'd see that?
Well, you never say never or always, but, you know, the way Vanderbilt played Missouri, and that quarterback is just a winner. And so, they've had in a long time, and the fact that they did it, you know, you could sort of say Bama wasn't going to be at their best, but you know that one was a shocker.
Do you have moments of panic as a coordinator or coach if your offense just, for lack of a better term, goes away? I ask that because football's so hard. That being said, there are better performances than others, and there's been some uneven performances across college football. Nebraska in the second half offensively hasn't been as consistent, and you go from pounding Georgia to hanging on against Georgia to really getting smoked. A lot of turnovers in Nashville, Coach. I mean, it's so wild.
Well, you can't panic. You panic, you're not going to be in that season long. And so, you're constantly working. You're looking and hearing, talking to your guys, your players and your coaches about what they're seeing, what they're doing. You know, what can they do, what can't they do, and you're adjusting on the run. And it's that way for the entire game. You know, unless you get a sleeper that, you know, those are fun, but there's not as exciting, and there's not the same rush that you get when you're in a play-by-play, series-by-series, blow-by-blow game, and that's why you're exhausted at the end of the game, and that's why you work all week to try to, you know, predict what kind of issues you might have so that you don't have to invent the wheel upstairs in the press box and on the sideline. So you're covering everything you could possibly cover during the week, and you got to have an answer. You've got to have an answer. Sometimes the right answer is just to go back to basics and just do what you do best and not worry about it. But everything's got a different solution, and every game's different.
And one of the things that's changed in college football, Coach, is that the margins aren't as tight as they used to be. Like if you look about Bama here, if your offense goes away for 6 quarters, their defense hasn't been great either. Used to be that'd be really tight margins to go make the kind of bowl game you want to make, or for the past decade, go make that 4-team playoff. But now, you know what? If you have a 6-quarter stretch that's not your best, I mean, we can all look at it. Bama is still, I don't want to say fast track to the playoff, but the path is still pretty easily there for them. Like the margins and change of college football. Can you speak on that, just how different it would be as a coach, knowing that you don't have to be near perfect to go win a national championship in a given year? You just have to get hot at the right time. You know, you don't think about that. You really are literally thinking one play at a time. Okay. You allow yourself to look down that road. It's just not the same. You're not thinking that way. You're just trying to win the game. And win the game one and win it by as many points as you can so you can relax during the game, and you're not even thinking about the next game, the margins of victory, what your chances are in the playoffs. Trust me, if you're doing that, then you're going to fall. You're going to, you look at the top of the mountain when you start a hike, and you're going to fall off that mountain. So it's one step at a time, and you literally are like climbing an ice glacier. And so you better be sure of your footing, be sure of this play, be sure of this game, this series, etc. So it's a way of thinking that you have to have. Once you start thinking and looking ahead, you're doomed. You really are.
Gary Barnett's with us. Coach, what league is tops, in your opinion, kind of at the halfway point? If you're going to pick one, and maybe you don't want to, is it Big Ten or is it SEC right now that's king?
I don't know. I don't. It's way too early to tell. I know as a coach, I wouldn't like all this travel, but as a fan, I'm loving these cross-country rivals and these games that are being played, games that you would never have had a year ago or 2 years ago. I mean, I mean, you're usually stuck in your part of the country. Now, you got great matchups. I mean, we've never seen these kind of matchups. It's great for college football. It may not be great for your coaching career, but it's great for the fan base. I think it's awesome. So, I don't know who's best. I think there's probably as much balance in the Big 12 as there is anywhere. Mm-hmm. And when I say now, it's not a great team, but there's 4 or 5 really good teams. You know, there's probably a couple great teams in the Big Ten and a couple of great teams in the SEC. But the SEC seems very balanced as well. We need to see Ohio State play somebody. Michigan's faltered. Minnesota's won a big game. They got another one this week. So, you know, it seems like parity for whatever reason, and everybody will have their own answer to that. But I don't know what that you can say about that right now. I do believe the best teams are in the SEC and the Big Ten, but there's 3 or 4 teams in the Big 12 that are good, but maybe not as good as those others.
What happens in Boulder on Saturday? K-State's -4. I'm not asking for a prediction, but I am interested in this contrast in styles because you guys are playing pretty good ball. You're pretty confident right now.
Yeah, we are. You know, Chris, this is a good matchup because it's our strength versus their strength. It's their second best strength versus ours. Their offense and our defense is a good matchup. Our offense and their defense is a good matchup. The matchup I don't like for Colorado is special teams. We're struggling there. We can't kick the ball in the end zone, so everybody gets a kickoff return. We've been punting it poorly. Our place kicker is accurate, but it kicks it real low, so we're going to get kicks blocked. I don't like our matchup on special teams. We have to at least neutralize theirs. We lose special teams battle, we're going to lose this game.
Coach, as we go rapid fire here with some college football for the weekend, Oklahoma, Texas, also this weekend. It's always massive. Sometimes you got to throw out what you know about teams in a rivalry week because it comes down to emotion. Oklahoma still searching for an offense. The defense has been fine. Texas looks like a real college football playoff contender this year. Who do you like there?
Yeah, well, don't throw it out this year. It's Texas. So that's the easiest one you're going to give me.
How about Penn State at SC -4, Nittany Lions?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. The SC struggled. I'm going to go with Penn State. I think they're ready to make that step. I'm going to go with Penn State.
They can find different ways to do things on offense.
Yeah. They're good. They're doing some things on offense really, really good.
It was a good hire. Their OC at KU was a really good hire.
Yep.
Ole Miss on the road taking on LSU in Death Valley. Ole Miss is a 3.5-point favorite on the road. I
just don't think LSU's got the offensive power to win this game. And, even though I'd like to see Lane probably lose this game, I got to pick Ole Miss.
You're in a tough spot with those two coaches, man.
I know. That's okay. It's nothing personal.
No, I get it. Ohio State and Oregon, -3.5 Buckeyes?
Yeah, I'm not a believer in Oregon yet. I am a believer in Ohio State. They haven't played anybody. I think this could be a really great football game. I think the 3 points is about right. I think Ohio State wins it that way. I think their defense is really good. So I'm going to pick Ohio State there.
All right. Coach, I will start trying to find a replacement smoker for you, okay?
No, don't do it. She won't accept it if it's delivered.
Coach, you have a good weekend. Appreciate you.
All right. Talk later, buddy.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. It's a bye week, but he is not taking any time off from us. Damon Benning. Of course, you hear him with the Husker Network and with Hurrdat Sports. DB, what's the week been like for you?
It's been pretty good. I feel like I won't have any good material next week because it'll actually be game week. But I'm almost Indiana Hoosiered out. So this weekend I'm going to take a deep dive to get inside the numbers to see like what's real think is a little bit of fool's gold inside the match, because right now at first blush, I think it's actually a good matchup for Nebraska defense. So that's my early thoughts. That and the fact we have a huge one, number 2 versus number 3, tomorrow night against the Elkhorn South Storm. So that's been about it. Well, I'm remiss. I forgot about didn't forget, but I forgot. The Dodgers playing the hated Fathers for us in the Game 5. That is fantastic.
Oh, you're rooting for the Dodgers. That's
He's
no
a
good.
huge Dodger guy.
I'm a diehard, big diehard guy. So, yeah, I'm old, Elijah, so I go back to wanting to be Pedro Guerrero. When I actually didn't understand cultural differences, I just thought people that look like me were me. No idea where Pedro Guerrero was from. The name meant nothing. He looked like me, and he was right-handed. I wanted to be that guy.
So I got to ask, did the utterance of Pedro Guerrero by OJ on one of the many 911 calls shatter life for you?
Yes, because all I could think of, this is totally going to date me, but all I could think of was Jim Rome telling me that Pedro Guerrero wasn't smart enough to be a drug dealer because he couldn't make his own bed. Like, that's all I could. He's like, this guy can't even make his own bed. That brought back memories. It was Pedro Guerrero leaving my house.
It's the juice on the phone. She's out partying with Pedro. Sir, who? Pedro Guerrero. Yep, you and I are on the same page. But, man, Kid Guerrero hit some bombs. I love it.
One of the funniest bits ever.
That was good. That was good. We were talking a little baseball. We'll stay here. And just so you know, Elijah is wearing his throwback Trevor Hoffman jersey today.
Not true. That's a lie.
You've got to be kidding me.
No,
Elijah?
That's an absolute lie.
I'm lying. I'm lying about that. But I just wanted to mess with you a little further from Pedro to Trevor. But we got two announcers you and I grew up with, and I remember Costas with the '95 Orange Bowl. As the studio host, or at least the sideline host for the pregame and then halftime.
He had one of the greatest opens ever.
Yes.
Was when he sat down with Coach Osborne before the Florida State game in '93. That actually, Schmidt, is on my phone. That little sit down where he said, well, he basically asked him about the point spread, and Coach Osborne was like hated that talk, and he said, well, we'll see who's right tonight. It was just one of the greatest opens ever with Costas.
He was great, and then you follow it up with his tribute after you guys won it against Miami. It was a really 2 minutes.
They had the great vignette of Coach Osborne in the lit room at the old Schulte Field House, and the sun was coming in behind him through the windows. Like that was a thing of beauty. That's the Costas I remember, not the one that everybody's making memes about and making light of now. It's been quite a long time since the greatness of Costas.
So is Costas and Al Michaels turned into the two guys in the balcony with the Muppets?
Yeah, that's a great. Poor Elijah. He's like, what are these two yahoos talking about?
The two.
I grew up with these guys. I grew up watching the Muppet Show back in the day when you had to get the DVD.
I thought you meant you grew up watching Michaels and Costas.
No.
They're totally those guys who almost like hate the sport they're part of, and if they could get any less emotional between the two of them on big plays during games, it would be a miracle. It's like, rah, 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 and these new age kids, and rah, 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 and salary contracts, and rah, 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 instant replay. It's like, guys, relax. It's going to be fine.
Well, to give credit where credit is due, Bob Costas, his hair colorist and his plastic surgeon is doing a world of work on that guy.
Wow.
I had to look. I'm being serious. I had to look it up. I'm like, this dude's 72 years old. He doesn't look a day past. I was like 60, but still.
Dude, I just remember him ABA in it, like his early footage where he's got the what was the guy, Mikey from 8 is Enough, and Pete Rose haircut going.
What is going? Well, this is good. This is right in my wheelhouse, fellas. And you compare who just had a brother, it was Buck Showalter, and like Costas. Showalter's like 62. Costas is in his 70s, and Costas looks like he's 30 years younger than Buck Showalter.
Yeah, I mean, Bob, when he first started, man, it was like, all right, dude, you need a chaperone and an ID. I mean, he was so young. But he was great. He was killing it. Him and Nance were doing major stuff in their 20s.
Yeah.
Damon, let's talk a little bit about this weekend of college football, and it's on the heels of upset weekend where if you were ranked, you went down most likely, and it was fascinating. Let's go Ohio State, Oregon. Are you locked in on that? Are you interested, or do you have a feel? Do you think it's going to be more so Ohio State getting in Ohio State's way versus Oregon? Because quite honestly, neither's really been challenged.
Yeah, I actually listen. I'm all over this one because I want to know who's more like we think they are. Yeah. Right? Is Oregon really this team that is not maximizing that? There's more out there. Or is this kind of who they are? And is Ohio State as good behind what the blowout numbers say? I don't know if it'll reveal a ton because I actually think both teams are pretty good. I expect Ohio State to win this game, even though it's on the road and much has been made about traveling and time zones and all of that. But I think the better team will win, and that's Ohio State. And I'm locked in on the Buckeyes this weekend.
One of the things, I'm not sure if you saw this, Damon, it came from Josh Fryer, the offensive tackle for Ohio State, where he talked about kind of the nervousness playing under the bright light, saying, if you mess up, everyone around the country knows, the national reporters, the announcers, everybody. Talk about the nervousness that brings. I want to get your thoughts on that. You're a guy that's played in your fair share of big games. How do you deal with those emotions whenever the lights are bright, whenever the eyes of the country are on you? How do you kind of work past that nervousness?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. That's all about falling back on the protocol and how you trained. And I think in situations like that, the first time you do it, yeah, there's a little bit of nerves, there's a little bit of trepidation. But I think it's all about preparation. And I'm not a big the hay is in the barn kind of guy, but I am a big experience guy. And so when you get to that point and you're thinking about the magnitude of the moment, it's all about managing how you prepared. And I get it. There's going to be this rush of energy that happens at the beginning of the game, and you'll be trying to sort through why you feel tired after like 3 minutes of being out there. But after that, and you settle down and play football, they'll be fine. I think Ohio State is the better team. You kind of fall back, like I said, into training. And it just surprises me that kind of came up as a topic, because if you're focusing on that in game week, it's a little concerning. But look, I think talent prevails. I like Ohio State in this one.
Damon, going to go to Nebraska as it is the bye week. You mentioned, who do we think they are? That about Ohio State, that about Oregon. What do you think about Nebraska to this point?
So my thing is, I'm a total. This is my coaching hat, and not. And it actually works out from a fan perspective, too, in terms of how I'd like folks to think. And I know it's kind of faux pas. You try not to tell people how to fan. But the general consensus is Nebraska needs to get better in a couple areas. Number one, obviously, special teams. I think one of the reasons why people are waiting for the other shoe to drop is they inevitably think special teams could fail them. And will it be next week on the road? I think they have a chance to really work on the little things, right? The combinations of holding and snapping. And you still need real game-time situation for this to play out. So I get it. That's a question mark. That's something you can work on during the bye week. The other thing is if we agree, and I think we do here, Schmidt, that Nebraska is leaving anywhere from 7 to 13 points out on the field, just keep in mind, you have a quarterback that's played 6 games. Barney's played 6 games. Banks and Nair have played 6 games with Nebraska. You have Dowdell, who's played in 6 games with Nebraska. You have a lot of guys that are integral parts of this offense that are still learning the formula and growing. so of averages will kick in. The more experience these guys get, they will start to not leave. That number will come down from 7 to 13 to maybe just a handful. That's going to happen over time with experience. Those are things that you're working on over the bye week. Is that going to be who Nebraska is? Are they a team that leaves points on the field? I don't think so. If you believe the guys, the aforementioned, are the better players that they have on offense, that will get better with time. It just will. Like, experience will dictate that. Defensively, which is the one thing that we haven't really addressed, is you've got a chance to really get in to how Indiana wants to move the football. They've got really good balance. I think they've only fumbled it twice all year in terms of lost fumbles, and Rourke's only thrown the 2 picks. So as you're watching this team methodically do what they do, you have to understand your defense is built for teams to not be able to put things together over the course of time. So you use this bye week to say, okay, what are our tendencies? What are their tendencies? And who can blink first? I like the way that this one's kind of setting up in terms of this being who Nebraska is, at least defensively.
Damon Benning with us. And Damon, quick last thought here. I know we got to get you back to your West Side Warriors. You guys are getting geared up for Elkhorn South. That's where I go. 15 seconds. A battle of undefeated teams tomorrow night. What are you looking for in that game?
So we got to stop the run. A lot of misdirection, a lot of counter. We got to continue our streak of not allowing folks to run the football. And then I think we got to hit some explosive plays on offense. That is Braylon Warren and a host of wide receivers and a young budding star by the name of Tay Jenkins. It should be a good one. I'm glad it's at home. I think we'll play well if we can shut down the run.
Damon, we'll check in again soon. Appreciate you much, and good luck to you.
You guys got it. Have a great rest of the show.
Good stuff from Damon Benning. We'll head to the old sports book. Danny Burke going to be with us. Burke's Best Bet, Burke'sBeat.com. As we wind it down, some college football, some NFL, some MLB on the way with Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Through the miracle of somehow patching in the smartphone, Danny Burke with us. Burke's Best Bets. Danny Burke 5 on Twitter.
It's a good thing we found that magic genie in the bottle for this one, Schmidt.
Yes. Danny Burke with us. Danny, let's get some odds. Odds on Elijah going Office Space on technical equipment here in the building.
They got to be pretty high, right? You know, I'm probably going to put that with, I don't know, let's say, give him a little bit of some juice here, about minus 120 that he's going to head in that direction. I mean, you know, the public's certainly backing the yes on this price, and based on everything that's transpired so far, it seems like more money is going to be heading that direction. So I think the yes is probably the smart lay here, guys.
Speaking of weird wagers, Danny, did you see that there was the Lieutenant Dan in Tampa Bay, and there were odds of whether or not he would survive the storm? We have confirmed he has survived the storm. Did you win any money on that one?
Are you betting on people's lives, Danny?
Shockingly, I thought maybe that would take a little bit longer down the road for that to be a thing. But I did see that yesterday. And so do you remember what the odds were actually? I remember.
It was thankfully.
Isn't it 50-50?
Well, you would have thought, but one of them was like plus 190. I can't remember if it was for
him not surviving was plus money, which I think is a good thing.
Certainly. And look, I was actually watching those videos. The man was saying some good stuff. He seemed like he had it figured out. If I actually had a way to bet on it, we're all about positivity. I'm not going to bet on somebody's demise. But it seemed like he had it set up stably and saw that he came through on the other side. So, yes, I would have been on the yes, but I did not get involved on that.
What killed me is somebody interviewed him after he woke up this morning. He's like, yeah, I actually slept pretty well last night. Turned the boat into the wind, and I had a nice 5 hours of sleep. And I'm like, you are Florida man for you right there.
Daddy, back from Kansas City, saw the Yanks and Stanton do post-season things for once, right? How about tonight? What are you feeling with the Yanks-Royals Game 4 here? KC plus 130, the total's 7.5, New York minus 155.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, guys. I did not touch this game, but if I did play it, I would have a couple leans here. And full disclosure, look, like most people, I do think the Yankees are the better team. The offense at the end of the day is probably what's going to give them the edge in this series. but I actually think the Royals are a little bit more intriguing of a look tonight based on the plus price. I'm not really willing to lay minus 140 in a playoff game where you do see underdogs a lot more often, kind of like hockey. So just based on the price alone, and because you're facing elimination, certainly if you're Kansas City, I'd be a little bit tempted to go in their direction. In terms of this total, I'd also maybe look toward the over if the Royals, again, you're desperate here, and Garrett Cole, as great as he can be, he could be a little bit shaken up in some of these pressured situations. So I think Kansas City can do enough to get some runs, and Michael Wacha, while he can have some decent stuff at the end of the day, he's kind of a liability out there. So maybe I'd have actually a little bit more conviction with this total and bet over 7.5.
Denny, what about winner take all Game 5 between the Padres and the Dodgers? Sounds like the Padres are rolling with Yu Darvish. Could be an interesting one. What do you like there?
Man, Yu Darvish scares the crap out of me, and you keep looking at his analytics, and a lot of times they're showing positivity and things where you can trust him. But again, this is a guy who can kind of be a head case from time to time. And look, you're right. I mean, the Padres are rolling, and they seem like they have all this momentum. And on the other side, you have the team that's supposed to be, without a doubt, the best in Major League Baseball. But that doesn't always work, as we see time and time again. Again, we're going to have to wait to see what the Dodgers do on the bump. But based on that, where the price is, if I'm getting the Padres at a little bit of a plus price here, even though my trepidations on Darvish, man, I kind of like the vibes of this Padres team and what they've been doing and how they just refuse to back down. So, again, I need to see a lot more information, but my gut feeling is telling me the Padres before knowing that.
Danny Burke with us, and Burke's Best Bets, and can find him at Danny Burke 5 on Twitter is where you follow on Twitter. Danny, MLB has been incredible. We'll get to some college football. Big Thursday night, look-ahead spot for both teams, and it bit him with San Fran and Arizona and Seattle and the Giants. What happens tonight? San Fran -4 for Thursday night football.
Yeah, got no opinion here on the side. Going to be waiting for an in-game opportunity. Don't really love a short week road divisional team laying over a key number like San Francisco is. And look, let's be honest, the 49ers are a better team, and they've had some fluky losses here, last week being one of them against the Arizona Cardinals, and then they had that situation against the Rams. That's not truly who this 49ers team is and will be down the road. On the other side, Seattle's kind of played like the team I figured they'd more be like. And it's not to say I thought the Giants were going to win that game outright, but it's not shocking that they lost that game per se. And it certainly wasn't shocking that they got beat down by the Lions, because I don't think that their defense was as good as the numbers were telling us, because they had a really easy schedule. Their defense even more banged up now. They're missing two top members of their secondary, Reek Wilson being one of them, or Woolen, or pardon me, whatever his name is. But one of their top corners is going to be out in this game. San Francisco is going to be certainly ticked off. So that's why I still think they're going to end up finding a way in this game. But the play that I did make, guys, is Brock Purdy over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Seattle's allowed 6 this year. Heck, Amon-Ra even threw one that contributed to that number. But the 49ers are throwing more when they enter the red zone. Even when they get to the 10-yard line, they've thrown a little bit more than they've run the ball. Their receivers are going to be healthy in this game. Purdy's done well in the pass against Seattle. And again, they're just banged up as Seattle in their secondary, and they've been worse against the passing efforts. They expect a big game out of Mason. I think they'll be ready to stuff him up the gut, but I think that Purdy's going to have a pretty good effort in the passing game, especially in the red zone. So count me in for Purdy over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I got it at -118. I saw the market was higher in a lot of other places, so make sure you shop around, because I wouldn't want to lay over like -125 on that.
They need a college football. We go for the game of the weekend. Ohio State, a 3-point favorite against Oregon. Who do you like?
I'm waiting this game out because I'm hoping that more attention is going to go toward the Ducks and I can get like a 2.5 on Ohio State. But if it's still at 3 and I'm forced to make a play here, which I haven't yet, I think I got to go with the Buckeyes. Kind of trust my preseason expectations here for Ohio State, even though the quarterback situation hasn't looked as fluid. Gabriel's certainly looking a little bit better. And look, we already know home field's going to be factored in. But I like how Ohio State bounced back in the second half against Iowa. That first half, you can attribute it to kind of a look-at spot or whatever. They made some good adjustments, and they came through. The other thing that may keep me off this game is just I'm still not the biggest Ryan Day guy. And this is a game where we've seen him falter time and time again in the past. So I don't know if I'm going to end up betting it. I still would strongly lean toward the Buckeyes because of the talent they have there. And Oregon on the other side hasn't really impressed. But Ryan Day does scare me a little bit with his game management and his decisions.
Daddy Burke with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Burke's Best Bet at Daddy Burke 5 on Twitter. And Daddy, real quick, couple of spots folks can find you, Stochastic and The Odd Shopper.
Yeah, so we're doing great stuff there. DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports content, always pump out over at Stochastic, Sims, Tools, Projection. Sign up and get hooked up with every single sport. I'm talking UFC, baseball, basketball, football, whatever it is. We've got you set up there. An Odd Shopper with our portfolio EV marketplace bets. You don't even have to know anything. Just let us do the work for you. And you can check out tons of our content there. You can find it on my Twitter, like Schmidt was saying, at Danny Burke 5. And October, exciting month for sports. The 4 big ones coming in full swing. So make sure you get in tune with us.
Good stuff from Daddy. We'll have a steak and a beer bet next on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, it's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel can follow up with us several different ways. Stream the show with your local affiliate. Home base is KFORnow.com. Apparently the internet's fixed. Hugs to everybody for that happening. Typically, Hail Varsity YouTube is where you can watch the show. Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter can follow along. But the podcast always there. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, like, subscribe, download. Do you want to do baseball game 4 tonight, Royals, Yanks, for a steak and a beer, or you want to do your NFL, Seattle, San Fran? I'm going to have to split screen this thing because the bunny's going to be watching both. She's a huge Seahawks fan, and she's cheering for her Yankees. I think the Royals handle it tonight.
Well, let's do one of each because I'm going straight up with the Yankees.
Okay, you're taking New York. I will take Kansas City.
Okay, and then what do you like in NFL?
There's just been a lot of missing pieces. What's the walking wounded report with San Fran?
It's a good question. They're 4-point favorites.
I know. So that means most of their nuclei needs to be back. Give me... I can get Seattle and points at home. Mm-hmm. Dang. I'll take Seattle and the points.
I'll take San Fran. Okay.
Look at this.
This works out great.
Actual disagreement.
This is beautiful.
So are we gonna?
Because my
are we gonna up it? We don't have to go anywhere tomorrow. We're in studio. A week from tomorrow, we're at Ameristar, Amerisports, which is awesome. Going to be there leading you into Nebraska, Indiana for the weekend. But we're at Ameristar, Council Bluffs Casino next Friday, 4 to 6, which is great. We're not anywhere tomorrow, so I think whatever happens tonight, one of us needs to show up to work tomorrow. To celebrate the stream and Twitter and YouTube having us back on video.
Well, thank you, Reverend, for bearing with us today.
Yes. With a monster porterhouse. I think the presentation of the old 96er needs to be a thing tomorrow.
Okay. I think the better reward should be during the first segment of the show tomorrow. Whoever wins this bet gets to stay home and grill a steak live while we're doing segment 1 tomorrow, and the other person's going to sit back here and produce with justice.
Oh, so the win being, hey guys, look at me on camera firing up the grill.
I am outside my backyard. I'm on the patio.
That's awesome.
We'll see. Well, let's see who wins.
Huh?
Because
we'll probably split.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. We'll probably split. This will all be a moot
It's just going to be justice. It's just going to be justice in studio.
We're
tomorrow.
each on our back patio grilling.
Hey, how you doing?
Stuck here.
Oh, I didn't tell you this. Sterling Schmidt, Mr. Snuggles, is making chicken breast, and I got some smoked chicken breast that was marinated, and it had some sort of just incredible tomato basil smoke around it. So it's like you're cutting through birthday cake for this chicken. What I mean by that, the skin.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that little bastard took one of my 2 chicken breasts off the resting plate and then got it ripped from him by the German Shepherd. I didn't get my chicken, but I'll get my steak tomorrow.
You got to watch that 96er with Hawkeyes.
I will do the steak tomorrow.